Day 784. Hollywood is full of babies. One of our favorite things to do during the past few months has been to watch movies when we have downtime. Sometimes, Stephen and Kyle will watch something as I drive. Sometimes, we'll all make some popcorn and watch a movie on a Friday night. Stephen, in particular, has become quite the movie buff in that time. He even has his favorite actors and actresses and has been asking to go see the Hollywood Walk of Fame for a while now. I decided to make that happen this week. After we left Ridgecrest, we headed directly south to Los Angeles, planning to see some of the sights and visit Hollywood. The first goal, at least for me, was to tease Stephen and pretend I didn't know how close we were to his dream spot. I spent a couple of hours driving around the freeways, pretending I was in one of the famous police chases that used to show up all the time on TV from the LA area. This activity was made more fun when we found an actual police car in a parking lot and Lisa took control as the cop who was chasing me. I finally pulled over and stepped out, finding myself quickly tackled and in handcuffs, much to the disgust of Stephen and Kyle. When we'd had our fun playing cops and robbers, we drove into some of the more ritzy neighborhoods in the area, places I never would have even been worthy of working in before this whole thing began. I set the camera up at a couple of places and took pictures of all of us standing in front of the houses to pretend we actually owned them. I suppose we technically do since there's no one else on Earth, but I don't know how that would legally hold up outside of this realm. I figured out how to use the camera for shooting video and made some MTV Cribs-style videos as we explored, with each of us picking a house that was ours and then showing the camera around. Kyle's video was just him barking in different rooms and peeing on some pretty expensive-looking things, but it was still pretty good. The sun was going down as we finished the last video, and I promised Stephen we would go to Hollywood first thing in the next morning, though I didn't count on the rain. Los Angeles is known for its year-round sunshine. It hardly ever rains, and even when it does, it's usually only a small amount. That rule seems to have gone by the wayside this week. Our second day in the city was marked by a downpour unlike anything I've ever seen. So many roads were covered with water that looked impassable, I had a hard time getting the RV anywhere through the city. It was a miracle we didn't get swept away, and I finally gave up around midday trying to get anywhere close to our destination. Stephen was more than disappointed, but I was able to calm him down a bit by running a marathon of The Godfather and making some brownies. I was hoping the rain would let up the next day, but it just kept coming down. We decided to make the best of it by building a slip-and-slide style contraption outside of the RV using a tarp that we've been carrying around for ages. We all donned our swimsuits, except Kyle, who's just naked all the time apparently, and took turns diving down the slide until we were all ready to collapse from exhaustion. The next morning, the rain finally relented and the sunshine returned. The first stop, once we finally entered the Hollywood area, was the Walk of Fame. It was honestly really cool to see all the names laid out like that, but Stephen is never satisfied with just looking. I don't know how he managed it, and I'm really afraid to ask, but he found and removed the star for Journey, and when I asked him why, he would only say he had his reasons. I've given up on trying to understand him and just go with it at this point, but it seems like he's just doing things for the sake of doing them these days. Along the Walk of Fame, we found an escape room that seemed like it would be cool to check out. I figured we would be in it for a few minutes, get bored and leave, but it wound up being the start of two of the weirdest days of the trip. I knew something was off as soon as we entered. It seemed a little bit too quiet. Everywhere we go is quiet, obviously, but I had the feeling someone or something else was in there and we were being watched. Lisa accidentally let the locked door close behind us as we entered the first room, so we were stuck until we could actually find the exit. We searched the room up and down for the key to get out, solving several puzzles along the way, but the key wasn't where we thought it should be. It would seem you would have lost something. Can I help you find it? A voice came over the speaker and made us all jump. We were just looking for the key to get out of here. Who are you? I asked. Who I am doesn't matter. I'm your only way of escape, so you'll need to do exactly as I say, the voice responded. At that point, I was terrified that whoever was on the other end of that speaker didn't have our best interest in mind. The few forms of life we've encountered on this adventure haven't exactly been friendly, and the last one nearly killed us. After a brief glance around at the others, I told whoever it was that we would be good and waited on a response. After a few moments of silence, I thought they'd maybe left, but the sound of a lock clicking and a hidden door opening along one of the walls told me I was wrong. I led the way as we crept into the next room, half expecting to be jumped as we emerged into what appeared to be some kind of control room. There were monitors along one of the walls showing each of the escape rooms, and a chair in the center of the room was facing away from us. A scene from a movie I'd once seen flashed through my head, though I couldn't remember the name of it. The hero walked into the villain's lair to find the chair facing away from the door, only to have the chair turn around and reveal the bad guy wearing an eye patch and petting a cat. As I tried to shake that image from my mind, the chair started turning. As our rescuer, or captor, came into view, I had to stifle a laugh. Sitting in the chair, trying to look menacing, was a baby doll. It was wearing a pink onesie, and its hands were raised in front of its face, with the fingertips tapping each other like a James Bond villain. "So we meet at last. I'll bet I'm not what you were expecting to see," it said. "I mean, we weren't really expecting anyone, so I guess that's right," I replied, unable to keep the grin from my face. "Oh, come on! Can't you just play along? I went to all the trouble of locking you in there and rescuing you, and you can't even act surprised?" "I'm sorry. Do you want us to just go back in the room and start over?" I was actively chuckling at this point. "No, it's ruined. You might as well just leave." Who exactly are you?" Lisa asked. "The name's Roger. I run this place. I wasn't expecting anyone today, then you all walked in, and I couldn't resist trying to have a little fun," Roger said, spinning around in his chair. "Are you the only one here?" I asked, finally able to stop laughing. "Nope, there's a whole community of us. We aren't really used to outsiders, so you probably haven't seen anyone else yet. I could show you around town if you want." "Like a real Hollywood tour?" Stephen asked, the excitement in his voice boiling over. "Yeah, I have a bus and everything. Come on," Roger said, hopping down from his chair and walking to the door. We followed him through the building and out the back door where, sure enough, he had a tour bus waiting. I wondered how he could possibly drive the thing, at least until I saw the modifications in the driver's area. He had built in some extensions to the pedals, among other things, and had no trouble sitting in the seat and taking us around town. Stephen's eyes lit up as we rolled down each street, seeing the homes of the stars, or at least where the stars would have lived. As we went, I started to see more and more baby dolls walking around, and I realized there was actually a whole community of them. It was like they'd all just walked off the store shelves one day and taken to the streets. There were dolls of all shapes and sizes, but the majority of them seemed to be your normal run-of-the-mill baby dolls. The closer I looked, I could see that the bus was not the only thing that had been modified. The whole town seemed to have things like ramps where steps used to be, and other improvements to make their lives easier. The place had been built for humans, so it wasn't really surprising that these dolls would have had difficulty getting around, but they seemed to have made the best of things. The tour itself ended at one of the movie studios after winding through the neighborhoods and cemeteries of the famous. I thought that would be the end of that, but then Roger asked if we'd like to star in a movie. "I want to be a star!" Stephen yelled, before I could even respond. Before I knew what was happening, we were surrounded by baby dolls and being ushered into a building to prepare for filming. They set each of us up with costumes and makeup, gave us scripts to read, and got us into the stage area. From what I could tell, the script they provided was something they had made up, and it wasn't very good. Even so, I went along with it because Stephen and Kyle seemed to be having the time of their lives. Lisa told me that she was playing along as well when we had a moment alone before filming started, though we were both hoping it would go quick. I didn't really understand most of what was going on, but it seemed like the movie, if you could call it that, was supposed to be some kind of sci-fi thing with aliens and spaceships. I just read the lines I was told to read and stood where they wanted me to stand, and we spent about 12 hours filming. Roger dropped us off at the RV late that night, promising to return the following day with the finished movie, and we all collapsed from exhaustion. I felt like I had only just laid down when the sunlight came through the window and landed on my eyes. I would have just ignored it if not for the knock at the door. "Good morning, Charlie. As promised, I have the finished movie here for you. Y'all did great, and we want to thank you again for being such good sports. We don't see many new faces, so getting the chance to make a movie with you all has been a true pleasure," Roger said, handing me the thumb drive. I didn't feel like there was any way that we could have filmed an entire movie in the little bit of time we were there, and I was actually right. When I put the drive in and loaded up the movie, I was surprised at the quality. Stephen, Kyle, and Lisa woke up to watch it with me, and we were all shocked to see what was essentially a Hollywood movie where we starred in a few scenes. From what I could tell, they had like 90% of the movie complete before we even arrived and just reshot a few of the scenes to include us in it. The credits listed a bunch of names, but they had a special section thanking us for being there and wishing us well on the rest of our journey. I was touched at the level of dedication they had apparently put into making it, and I wanted to let them know, but they were gone. We spent the whole day looking for any sign of Roger or any of the others, but there wasn't a single trace that they'd even been there. I don't know what to make of it. Did they just slip out of this reality, or are they hiding somewhere? I suppose it doesn't really matter now. We hit the road that evening, getting on the famous Highway 1 and making our way north. We spent last night in Santa Barbara, hanging out on the beach and checking out the city that was host to one of my favorite TV shows of all time. We would have gotten back on the road today, but Cal showed up again, telling me that we needed to talk and saying he would be back shortly and to stay here. I'm not really sure what he wanted, but he looked really worried.